Section 41, which deals with how to allocate the responsibility for paying the judgments or settlements on long-tail claims, has generated some controversy. To give you some background on this, the section really only applies to a narrow, though important, set of cases. It's where it's essentially cases involving what we call indivisible harm. What I mean by that is there's a kind of harm, maybe it's personal physical injury or it's property damage, that occurs over a period of years, and with respect to which one cannot determine with any certainty into which year the harm or the damage actually occurs. And the quintessential examples are asbestos-related personal injuries and environmental property damage. And so you can see how there may, for example, in the property damage case, there may be seepage of pollution or seepage of some kind of contaminant over a period of years into a piece of property that might give rise to liability and therefore potentially trigger coverage. But we don't know in which years it seeped. And even if we might know a period of years over which it seeped, we don't know in which years it seeped and how much in each year. So there are issues of trigger, which is which policies are kind of on the hook. That's actually discussed in Section 33. Comment F will have some things about that. And then the allocation question is, once you've decided which policies are triggered, how do you decide how much responsibility, how much cost to allocate to each of those years? And there are a couple of general theories that the courts have adopted. One is called the pro rata approach, where you just allocate the cost evenly across time, sometimes called time on the risk approach. You allocate an equal amount of harm to each of the years that have been triggered because you don't have certainty, again, about how much goes in each year. This is the approach we've adopted. The alternative approach is sometimes called the all sums approach, based on some language that appears in the relevant liability insurance policies, where essentially the courts will say that any of the policies that is triggered is independently on the hook for all of the sums for which the policyholder is made liable. And it's similar to joint and several liability in the sense that each of the different years is jointly on the hook and independently on the hook. We have chosen the pro rata allocation rule. This is an area where honestly everybody was taken by surprise historically by the sort of occurrence of these long-tail kinds of harms. Didn't really plan for it. The language isn't written precisely for it as it should have been, and so we need some system for dealing with this, in some ways sui generis kind of event, and a system that relies on equal allocation of costs across the years is relatively simple to administer, and it's at least consistent with the policy language, as consistent as one can be under such circumstances when the loss is literally indivisible. The damages in these cases are enormous. So we're talking about very large damage cases, and there's been lots of litigation. This is one of the issues that's been the source of the most litigation in the history of civil litigation over the last 20, 30 years. And so there's a lot of money at stake in this area.